Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the information based on Chapter 2 in your textbook, Quantum Leadership. So today, we're going to talk about the 10 complexity principles for leaders in advancing value in the quantum age. And it's stated in Ecclesiastes, Chapter 3, verse 1, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." So I think that's really a nice way to start out our discussion. So going back to chapter 1, as I introduced change, you found that change is endless. The other thing that helps us with change is that information drives and informs all work, no matter where it is, hospital, business, no matter what. It is not the knowledge or how much knowledge we have, it's the knowledge and how we use it. So that is very key and different from the way that we've always looked at knowledge. The more you have, the more you know. But now it's how best you use it. Technology is changing the character and content of service relationships. I think this has become even more apparent after COVID. We have a computer online check-in, no matter if it's healthcare, if it's going to the vet's office, if it's whatever the situation is where you have an appointment, you check in via technology is just one example. And then wireless technologies now operate in ways that we never thought they would, especially with the global, when we think globally. So technology brings our once far away neighbor into our living room or on our mobile phones. So it's just advancing quickly. So chaos and complexity inform change. And I think it states very well in your book that it's the dance of change, because change is always happening. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but it's always there. Understanding complexity is a requisite for understanding relationships. If we know that everything is complex, but yet it can be broken down into subsets and smaller systems, then how they interrelate on a simple level shows us how it works in a complex situation. So going further, complexity teaches us that all systems continuously interact, no matter how small or how large or how complex. So everything is working together. Living in the potential. We talked about the potential reality last time. And as we know, leaders live in the potential. And everyone else should too, because we need to view work as a journey. We need to focus on outcomes as the best result. So those good, positive outcomes. Everyone needs to be looking for and reading for signs of change, because it's always going to occur. And then everyone should focus on the team and how it works and not just the individual. So principle 1, remember I said there's 10 principles. Principle 1 is that wholes are not just the sum of their parts. Remember, the whole are made up of smaller units, and the smaller units are interacting with each other in order to show or sustain the whole system or sum. Good leaders see all work from the perspective of the system. They see it in the simple systems and the larger systems, all the interactions. Leaders and staff need to recognize that no one person ever makes the most sustaining contribution to change. I remember we focus on the team, not the individual. It's the team that contributes to sustaining change. Professions now must find what connects them rather than what supports them. Remember, our focus now is on the interdisciplinary team, just not nurses, unit aides, assistants, whatever. It's the team working together. So the next is principle 2, which is all healthcare is local. So the health services on a local have a local relationship and just not centralized authority. So what does that mean? Well, we need to focus on the relationships that are closest to us. Doesn't mean that it's centralized into one area, but there's an interaction among everyone. And a good leader recognizes that the system survival depends upon the structure and a good process. It should be an easy structure to recognize, and it should be an easy, proper process in order to deliver care, deliver whatever we need to do in that situation. The members focus on the product of their work. Remember, it's the product, it's the quality of the work. And the system has a dynamic change on those that it serves. So remember, the system, whether it's a small system or a large system, meaning the institution or a unit or a team, impact patients, families, and their outcomes. The point of service workers must be able to meet the demands of the culture of those they deserve. So they need to have the knowledge to work with the culture of people that they serve, knowing diversity is always present. Value is now the centerpiece of service delivery. And I think I've emphasized this pretty well. Everything has value, plain and simple. The new knowing about the contributions of evidence-based practice and quality indicators focus should be the true focus of that system. Leaders need to understand each element of the system within these concepts of the larger system. So remember, evidence-based practice and quality improvement science are the key components of delivering service today. Simple systems aggregate to complex systems. Again, we've talked about this. Need to understand what the simple systems are, how each one of those interact in order to understand the complex system or the larger system. Diversity is essential to life. Only where diversity is present can the potential to thrive be ensured. Diversity meaning that there's a wide variety of ideas, there's a wide variety of people, there's a wide variety of everything, makes chaos visible. We know that every place has chaos, everything is chaotic, and that's where change occurs. Chaos is also the energy that arises from conflicts between systems and elements within the system. So there's always going to be conflict of some kind, and that has to be resolved. But the presence of conflicting forces indicates the system is healthy and energetic, meaning that it's constantly working to meet the diversity, the changes within that system. So it can be a sign of healthy and an energetic system, meaning that the system works well. Air is essential to success. Air underpins all change. It can be random or a conscious air, meaning that it just randomly occurred. Didn't realize that that was a possibility that could have happened. So it was a random air. A conscious air means that change was required because something arose that needed to make a change. Air is present everywhere in the universe. Air is a teacher to all of us. We learn from airs. They play a critical role in learning and developmental activities. And air can be used by a leader to better evaluate a change process. Basically, it boils down to how was that change? How did people or teams react to the change process? What happened? How did they adapt? The seventh principle is that systems thrive when all of their functions intersect and interact. There is nothing in the universe that is not in some way interacting with something else. While the worker is changing, also is the workplace. The leader of the system cannot perform leadership tasks unilaterally. They have to work with other individuals. It's just not viable for one person to make all changes. So life at that intersection, it's social networks that interact with life, process networks, how things move within a given situation, evidentiary networks, meaning what's the evidence out there, what do we need to know, interdisciplinary networks, and interfacing service networks. So again, where these networks meet and interact, that's where the potential for change occurs. We need to know how to adapt to these intersection and how these networks interact with one another. Principle 8 means that equilibrium and disequilibrium are in constant tension. This is not necessarily negative. This tension is essential to life and reflects that disequilibrium is the universe's natural state. It's constantly seeking a way to create equilibrium, but we never quite achieve that. And leaders have to understand this because that's what occurs at this intersection that I just talked about, because that's where stability and change interact. Again, people do not make change, they live it. People are always involved in change, and change is universal. It's going to happen over and over and over. Principle 9 is change is generated for the center outward, meaning that change occurs at the point of service. We need to know what is happening at the point of service, what might negatively impact it so that we can always be constantly aware of what changes need to be done at the point of services. They're never stagnant. And finally, principle 10 is revolution results from the aggregation of local changes, meaning that human changes is evolutionary. It's never revolutionary. Revolution means that it happens almost immediately, where in true change, it's more of an evolution, because we know that change is occurring and change is going to constantly occur. So it's evolutionary because we deal with the change, and then that makes the system better. And we know that we need to respond to the next change that's going to be occurring. So change essentially doesn't happen at just one point in time. It's evolutionary. So in summary, the leader needs to keep in mind that all strategies, they have consequences, and what that boils down to is change. Systems are memberships of the community. They're small systems, large systems, all systems are interacting. Failure can be an important measure of direct and change. Remember, error is good. It causes us to learn something. The team is the basic unit of work, not the individual. And small changes lead to big changes. Again, evolutionary. Crisis and creativity frequently emerge in unanticipated places and ways. So creativity, again, and crisis really is at the center, should be at our center focus, which is the point of service. So as we close up today, I want you to remember Albert Einstein's quote: "The definition of genius is taking the complex and making it simple." So all of those complex systems, no matter what they are, can always be broken down and understood at the simple subsystems. So always look to what the complex system is, because it can be found to be simple. So I hope you learned something today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and have a great day.